TrekWars, Duels Across the Stars. Episode 11, The Rise of Motherhood.
Leia Organa has vanished. In her absence, her only child has started causing trouble by following in his granddad's footsteps and trying to become a Darth. With the support of the Federation, Loaxana Troy, daughter of the Fifth House, holder of the Sacred Chalice of Reeks, heir to the Holy Rings of Betazed, leads a brave resistance of 4 other mothers. She is desperate to find her fellow mother Leia to gain her help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. After sending her biggest fan, Jean-Luc, to rescue Leia Organa, Loaxana has sent her most daring aide on a secret mission to Tython, where 3 men are meditating on who is in the top 5 mothers from Star Trek and Star Wars. Hello, thank you for joining us on this, our 11th episode, Top 5 Mothers, The Rise of Motherhood. I am Olympus. I am joined today by my fellow host...
Ben Kerner, and we've got back again for his second appearance on this. We've got
Hugh Jackson. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to join again.
No, thank you for coming. I'm glad you came on, and I'm glad you're happy to come back for another one. Thank you. And
thank you. Yeah.
And special welcome to special guest star Moopsy.
Moopsy.
Yeah.
See, yeah. I like my Moopsy.
Yeah. After last episode, we mentioned it to Stu, and he especially went out and found him. Actually, do we know if it's a him or a her? Actually, that's
very good question.
Anyway. Good question. Anyway,
how does one sex a Moopsy other than very carefully?
Yeah.
Just need to make sure your bones don't get liquefied in the process.
I mean.
Anyway, before we go into too much laughter, not about to get this episode started. Last Sunday was Mother's Day. For us, don't forget your mother's presents, okay, guys?
Roger.
So, yeah. We had, Mother's Day, or Mother and Sunday, as my dad would call it. So, for this episode, as we've already said, we're going to do our top 5 mothers from Star Trek and Star Wars. Before we get underway, shall we give our little rules of what we pick for this episode? So we tell you what. So we start with Stu and see. Did you have any rules for picking a list?
I had 1 rule and 1 guidance that I gave myself. I don't know as it would count as a rule, but my basic rule is only sticking to Star Wars and Star Trek. I was really firm about that. My guidance to so I wanted, I suppose, to come at this a little bit differently. I find Bad Parenthood both something to be called out and very entertaining. So my bottom 3, my first 3 mothers are terrible mothers. So I'm starting with number 5 is the worst mother across both franchises. Moving up to number 1 being the best mother.
Okay.
And
I like it.
There's a lot of that I've missed out, but that's because I see them more as neutral.
No, fair enough. Olympus, have you got any rules for yours?
Well, for starters, I'm kind of wondering why I didn't do what Stu just told us he's done, because that sounds absolutely brilliant. You know, go for worst and work your way up. That's a great ranking system. I've gone with my top 5 rather than doing that, so I'm a little bit like, damn, I've missed a trick there. My guidance was that I could branch outside of Star Trek and Star Wars. So I've done an opposite on the guidance there. And my main rule was that the mother side of it did not have to be a biological thing, nor did it have to be an actual mother role, but more showing motherhood traits. So it would encompass all of that, including motherhood traits. Not going to lie, in part, that was just to make this task a little bit easier because I did find this very, very tricky to do.
Oh, that's good. No, I think we've all come this slightly different perspective. I have gone for mothers themselves, as in the parent. Okay, they don't have to be a biological parent. They could be a step parent. They could be an adopted parent or a parent that's adopted the child, and they could even or unofficially adopted that children or child or children. So yeah, to me, they had to be a parent, but they also, and it's not necessarily the top 5 best people that are mothers. They had to be a reasonably good mother, or at least try to be a reasonably good mother in this. So if you're let's say we were going for fathers and we picked Worf as in the top 5, I don't necessarily call him a great father. So to Alexander. So
That's
yeah. If there's a mother equivalent of Worf, then he's a great character, but he's not necessarily the greatest parent in the world.
So that's worth me commenting on, just going back to mine for a second then as well, because I didn't clarify that. For mine, it's not purely based off of how good a mother they are, but also how much I like that character to an extent as well. So I do have potentially a couple of characters in here that are maybe not the best mothers, but certainly have tried their best.
Yeah. And bear in mind, in my rules, we didn't necessarily have to we had to spend some time either talking about the mother or mum, and not necessarily, and they had to appear on screen for at least a short amount of time to be able to classify. So, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. Are we missing anything else, or are we going to go straight into our picks?
I don't think we are. I think we're ready. Stu, you ready?
Well, I'll clarify because I didn't say anything about my sort of the biological or non-biological mother side of things. So I'll say I've sort of gone for biological mothers. Generally, sort of. That'll become clear later. But I would, if it's okay, guys, just like to give a massive shout out to all the step parents, foster parents, adoptive parents, all the non-biological parents out there, because they do a fantastic, tremendous, amazing job. I mean, biological parents do as well, but I think, people stepping up to that role, I just like all the love in the world.
100% agree. Absolutely.
Definitely. And
couldn't have put it better myself.
And even if I don't say it directly in the picks I have, I know there's at least 2 here that are. Oh, actually, technically, there's 3. Actually, 3 who are don't have necessarily their biological children in my picks. So,
having shouted them out, I've completely disregarded them in mine.
Fair enough. I tell you what, Stu. What is your number 5 pick? Shall we start with you then?
So, number 5. This is my absolute worst mother in both franchises, from my perspective, is Catherine Janeway, captain of the USS Voyager. Now, many might see her to be a mother to the crew, but I was looking beyond that. I'm thinking about those salamander babies that she just up and left on that planet to destroy an ecosystem, to be stranded in the Delta Quadrant. I just think that's appalling motherhood right there.
I'm glad you picked her. I suddenly thought about her at the about 10 minutes before recording. I went, should I pick her just as a pick? And I went, no, it doesn't fit my description. I love that one. I completely agree.
Awful mother. Yeah.
Phenomenal choice. I mean, you can't add to anything you've just said there. Spot on. Couldn't say anything else.
I don't suppose you have anything else to add to that, because yeah, it really sums up in that short description.
Well, I have a controversial viewpoint, and like I said, people do see her as a fantastic mother to the crew. Mothers don't murder their children. Justice for Tuvix.
There you go. Justice for Tuvix. Hashtag 100%.
Fair enough.
I know that's a very controversial thing.
There's a brilliant meme that I only saw on social media maybe a few weeks back, where Tuvix goes up to Janeway with a cup of coffee. It says, "Here you go, Captain. It's decaf." And you just get her staring at him with this really, really serious, like, you just know what that links to right away. I think that epitomizes the decision very well.
Yeah, I tell you what, as well as putting your top 5 in the comments section and however you're viewing this, please put your opinions on Tuvix and Janeway as well. Be nice-ish if you can.
I don't know if you can be nice-ish when it comes to that scenario. That's probably one of the darkest yet most entertaining, not in an entertaining way per se, but it's probably one of the best episodes of Voyager that looks at those types of dilemmas, isn't it, really? They were very brave to do that. And yeah, justice for Tuvix, as you said.
Polarizing.
Very.
Speaking of bravery on that subject, they were brave to do it, but I think Lower Decks were braver to actually come down on one side of that argument.
Yeah.
Because that just upsets half the fandom.
Yeah, absolutely. And they
I think that was
very
really brave of Mike McMahon.
I agree.
But he chose right, so that's
in our opinions, he chose correctly. As you said, half of the fandom will probably disagree, but I mean, I'm on your side on that one.
Yeah, no, universal decision here on that one. So, tell you what, I'm going to pick myself to go next because I think Olympus could have the last pick of the day.
Thank you.
So, my one is going to go to the Rafa Khan, and it's Carol Marcus. You don't see much of her time as a mother, but she is with her son David. You can see they care for each other completely. He appears to be well brought up in a way that he doesn't appear to be rude, other than maybe a couple of digs at the father that left him. But when I say that, I don't think his father actually knew about him. But yeah, but no, generally, I think she's well brought up. She's a good character, scientist. She a good scientist. She's in a good movie as well, which helps. I know she was in another film which was not slated a little bit, but even then her performance was was good. And I know she was brought up in Strange New Worlds as well. When Singh was asking Kirk about if he's with anybody or something like that, and he mentions he's in a relationship with Carol Marcus. So yeah, number 5 is Carol Marcus from Star Trek. So any other opinions? I'll tell you what, Olympus, you got any opinions? So go on to do.
I was going to say, can I challenge your assessment of David a little bit?
Go on.
You say he was brought up well, but we know she plays bridge with him. Okay, that's she spends time with him, but that's not necessarily a good thing. She seems, from my perspective, she seems to treat him more like a friend than a son. And yeah, when he meets Kirk, like he's a bit entitled and aggressive and belligerent, and I really didn't like David. I don't think he deserved what happened to him, but didn't dislike him that much. But really didn't like him as a character. I thought he was a git, basically.
I didn't like him as a character, but thinking about it, he did have a bit of an attitude, but I think that was to play that separated from fatherhood. So and I know with these programs, things these people slightly over do it to make the point, but
I'm going to digress for a second out of motherhood and into fatherhood, but it's a point that I've wanted to make for a while now, and it's never come up until just now. I felt like, and again, he didn't deserve to die, especially the way he did, but I felt like Kirk's reaction was over the top, considering he barely knew him. And then you had there were a couple mentions of him in future movies as well, where it's quite emotive, and maybe they're a little bit more justified in my head, but it's just with the little screen time you had with them, and how little he knew him, to have a reaction like that he did, I thought was a little bit over the top. To pull myself back over to Carol, I would go one step further and say that I thought that she treated him more like a colleague than a friend. But again, that's not saying anything about the pick. I think it's a good pick, and what they successfully did in the movie would show a very different type of mother-son dynamic, whether it was good or bad motherhood. They did portray that very well.
yeah. I suppose I'm going with this and going, as they can have that either colleague or friend reaction to each other. I presume I just put that together and gone.
I mean,
yeah, that's yeah.
Sorry, have either of you ever worked with family members directly before? If you have, or if anyone watching has, you'll know that depending on the family member, it can either go very well, or you need to create that type of line between family life and work life, which can actually feed into why in their working scenarios on that movie they might have been a bit clinical in perception.
Yeah. And I haven't. Okay, I technically have once, because my mum worked in a shop and she said, "Oh, do you want to shift for the day?" And I've worked one, but that was me as a probably 17-year-old, 18-year-old, to being. And she's the boss. She was the boss as well, so it's like, I'd do what she was told. But no, I haven't. But I've worked with many people who have family members who work with them, and it's just like
it can be a difficult dynamic to manage.
Yeah. I tell you what, unless there's any other thoughts on that, shall we head to Olympus?
Sure, thank you. And again, great pick, mate. Carol wasn't one that I thought of when I was going through all these picks that I'm about to go through. I was really, really struggling to come up with any, and I totally forgot about Carol right away. So there you go, spark right there in my mind. So I'll not forget her fast. Now, my first pick, and I can lean both on good parenthood and bad parenthood with this character, is Beverly Crusher. So she's my number 5. Good parenthood, I think you see through a lot of the Next Generation, very good motherhood qualities with her son Wesley. She's very supportive of him. She is very protective of him, which isn't necessarily always a good thing either. She maybe stifles him a little bit sometimes, but very encouraging, and she pushes him, I think, in all the right ways. There's a couple of points, as I say, where she is probably a little bit too controlling, and they do play on that in a couple of episodes. There's one in particular that I can't remember. I think it's when he starts rebelling a little bit. Is it the one with the nanites? I think it starts season 3, when they had the egg experiment happening. I think that one's kind of plays on it a little bit as he's growing up a bit more and getting a little bit more, like approaching adulthood, I guess. So a lot of positive stuff there. And then you flip to the start of season 2, when Gates McFadden takes a break from the show for whatever reason, and you have nearly an entire season when she's never mentioned. Wesley doesn't make any real reference to her, doesn't show that he's missing her in any way whatsoever, and it kind of felt jarring. Then all of a sudden she was back again, though I think they managed that transition a bit better, and they did manage that relationship between her and Wesley, trying to recover that a bit better. So I didn't quite like how they managed that, but I think from the point that he decides to swan off with the Traveller, and she's just like, yeah, sure, no bother, bye, my son, I'll never see you again, and I don't really care about that whatsoever, and I'll never mention you again, for pretty much the rest of TNG, and most of the movies, and most of Star Trek Picard that I'm in. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, per show. I mean, look at how much airtime Jack Crusher gets in the last season of Picard, and I think she mentions Wesley once. So yeah, I think on that side, there's some negatives, but to round off, there's my number 5. What are your thoughts?
I did consider her, and she is somebody who, when they do show screen time of them, actually makes a lot of effort to be apparent. And I think they do, as she does say, I think the comment you may be referring to from Picard is like, she said she was tried too hard with Wesley, and then didn't try enough with Jack.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, she, you can see she is trying, but she's ended up going probably to the extremes, which actually fits my rules. But yeah, it didn't come up. Yeah. Any thoughts,
I agree
Stu?
with Ben. Yeah, absolutely. I think you've summed that up really. It summed up the way I see it. I think, that mixture of good and bad. Yeah, I mean, when she's a good mother, she is a brilliant mother.
Yep.
And you'd kind of hope and expect that from a skilled, experienced doctor. That they're in that profession because they are caring people who want to look after people. So you'd expect the good motherhood side to be really good. And yeah, she messes up, but she doesn't mess up because she's uncaring or because she just forgets she has a son. From my perspective, anyway, unlike you mentioned Worf earlier.
He definitely forgets Alexander in a phenomenal way.
She messes up because she's trying, but she does the wrong thing, or she handles it the wrong way. But at least she's trying. At no point, I think, is there ever a moment when Wesley can say that he's concerned that his mother doesn't care. That there's no way he could, like, you could perceive of the character feeling that way. So yeah, I think she's a brilliant pick. And yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And Gates is like kind of hot anyway.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, it sure does.
Especially in Picard. The way she's aged. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I don't want to get creepy on that.
No, not at all. Just to go on your point as well, like, totally agree with everything that both of you guys have said there. So thank you. And I think for me, if I was coming across with any sort of lack of caring, I didn't mean that the character didn't care. I guess I was probably more criticizing the writing and the directing of the future episodes after the point Wesley left. I wanted to see more of the impact of him leaving on Beverly. That's what I wanted to see, and I never really got that.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of these early characters, at least on the Pigs and the 5, that they do have a problem with the writing, that they don't show enough when they're doing specific scenes and specific episodes. They care in all the world, but as a big franchise, as a big arc, not as much.
Maybe that's something to do with the fact that it was so strictly episodic back in those days. It was probably something to do with that.
Yeah.
So, minimizing referencing other episodes.
Yeah. So you keep the continuity.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. Combination with my pick, Karen Marcus, Catherine Drainway as well. It was like, we don't want them for the next episodes. Beverly Crusher again as well. I agree with that. I suppose we're back to the start then. Stu, what's your number 4 pick?
Number 4 is a mother who almost pipped Janeway to the worst mother, and I'm bracing myself for gasps of astonishment at this.
Get ready. Ben.
Skywalker.
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah.
Olympus didn't let me down. She's an appalling mother. She's like,
You realise though, if she did anything,
she's got this child.
If she did anything, her head would get blown off.
I mean, so I'm gonna put this the way I'm seeing it. She's got this child who is this miracle child unto her, who's like, her greatest joy, her greatest blessing, and all the rest of it. These two random men turn up one day and say, "Yes, we'd like to take your son away with us," and she's like, "Yeah, bye," and doesn't. I mean, it's not set in the future, it's a long time ago, but they've got futuristic technologies. She doesn't say, "Here's my contact details, make sure I've got yours, make sure, we stay in touch over," it's not subspace, but whatever the Star Wars equivalent is. I mean, he doesn't even know that she's that she's been freed, that she's got married, which means that there's been no contact between Shmi and Anakin whatsoever. I want to mention, yes, Shmi is the mother of Anakin Skywalker, just in case anybody watching has never watched Star Wars, which I think is unlikely, but yeah, just in case. Yeah, she basically abandons her son and lets him go off with these two blokes she's just met. Now, if they turned up in an intergalactic ice cream truck, or were giving away free space puppies, I still think she'll let him go with them. So, yeah. Shmi.
Olympus, you look like you're ready to come back on this.
I am. I'm sorry. Wait. So first off, right? Phenomenal pick. Okay. Really, really, really good pick. I did consider Shmi. She's in my honourable mentions, but I am going to disagree with you a little bit on, and it's not because I think she could have done things differently. However, I blame a lot of what you've just gone through on the Jedi doctrine. So the Jedi force and ensure no relationships, no connections to your family once you're taken away as a kid, none of that stuff, because emotion leads to the dark side in a very, very shortened version of the Jedi Code. So a lot of that, probably most of that, I've always in my head canon had as being the Jedi's fault. Now, you could argue that Shmi could have been more motherly, not given her child away to these strangers, albeit they are Jedi, and everyone in that place in the galaxy all as many years ago knows what the Jedi are, what they represent, peace and justice in the galaxy, all that good stuff, and how important that is. So she could have kept him from that, but she saw that as his way of escaping slavery for his entire life. And she wanted him to have the best life he possibly could, and she knew that he couldn't have that with her in that situation. So that's just my headcanon and how I managed to forgive Shmi as I watched episode 1. I'm going to have a good hard think after this recording just to see whether I still agree with myself afterwards or not.
I 100% hear where you're coming from there. I've got to ask, was there a deleted scene where she checked their credentials?
If there was, I didn't bother to look it up.
How did she know they were Jedi?
You know what, actually, you've made a very, very good point. Anakin mentions in that movie when he sees Qui-Gon's lightsaber, about him being a Jedi, and Qui-Gon's like, well, how do you know? Maybe I killed a Jedi and took it from him. And that's when you get the whole, Jedi can't die, well, actually, conversation.
I wish that were the case.
Yes, if only.
Yeah,
I wish that was so. But Qui-Gon makes that very point. So you've got Liam Neeson backing you up there.
Me and Liam, we go way back. Yeah, he always backs me up. And actually, I mean, you've just raised a point there. Also reinforcing my point. They're sat at the dinner table. He's talking about murdering Jedi, and she still lets him go with them.
Yeah.
Talking about murdering Jedi to a little kid.
The more that I talk through this, the less I'm backing myself up, and the more I'm backing you up. So I think that tells everyone where this conversation's going. I think my opinion's changing.
You're going over to the dark side.
Yeah.
They have cookies on the dark side. Ask Moopsy.
Moopsy.
I don't have much more to add to that actually, but I'm loving the way you do the pick, Stu, and it's brilliant. Are you happy for me to go to number 4 then?
Please do.
I am going to go to 7 of 9, who is mainly a mother to Icheb, but you've got the other 3 children, Mazati, Azan, and Ribi. I hope I'm pronouncing that good because I forgot how the pronunciation goes of the 2 boys because you didn't see them that often. But that her having to look after the other Borg and get them used to being, I was about to say human again, but none of them are human, but back to their, whatever you call their species is, but looking after them, it also works with her and builds on her, and you can see her building as a mother as well, having, like probably most mothers who have a child, their first child is like, how do I work this out? How are things going to go? I've got no idea. And this is a good example of this. And especially Ichib and Seven's relationship as they go through is brilliant. I'm not going to say this is a brilliant scene because it makes it worse, but it's a good scene, and it had the reaction I had when we lost Ichib, and their reaction there was great, and see how close they were in Picard. It is a bit of a gruesome scene, unfortunately, but but yeah, no, I don't really have more to say other than their interactions in Voyager and Picard are pretty good. So, any other thoughts?
Yeah, phenomenal pick. 7-9 again. One of my honourable mentions, believe it or not, for the very reasons that you've just brought up there. And the scene that encapsulates all of it. I mean, you guys will know by now, going through these episodes, that a big part of me enjoying these shows and these movies boils down to the characters and the character development, and how all the different stories and the different interactions and the different things that happen lead in and develop that character development. And seeing that scene in Picard, as gruesome as it was, but as heartbreaking as it was, and seeing Seven being the one having to end it for Icheb as well, it just worked sadly but beautifully. Beautifully. And as I said, it helps build her character development as a mother, as herself, into Picard, and I think really helps with how successful her character was across those 3 seasons of Picard too.
Yeah, she also, a great character that I like as a character. I think it's well played, well acted. Sorry, Stu, any thoughts?
I mean, nothing I can really add. Just to expand on really what you've said, that she was coming into motherhood and struggling without the manual, suddenly a mother, wasn't expecting to be, don't know what to do. But not only was she trying to guide these kids back to, we'll say humanity, even though the other species, but while she was still struggling with her own humanity and trying to discover that, so she was supposed to be this pathfinder for them, when she was losing her way herself at times. And so absolutely phenomenal job that she took on and did it incredibly well, and an absolutely brilliant pick there.
Yeah. And something I did forget, but when Mazzati and the two boys were leaving, that
Yeah.
was my first instinct of it's like they've bonded as a family, and it's just like, oh no, they're leaving.
I totally forgot that happened. That's just come straight to me now as you've said it. And yeah, I completely agree with you.
No, well, anyway, that's my number 4 pick, 7 and 9.
Guess that takes it on to me. And before I continue, I'm going to say the one thing that I forget to say every single episode at the start, which is, guess what, guys? Do we tell each other what our picks are before we go into this? No, we don't.
Not.
It's all a surprise for us. We make a point of not sharing this information with us just to help enhance and make the experience, I guess, a bit more enjoyable. At least I find it that way. Because every element of the recording as we go through is a surprise. So yeah, just to highlight that there, guys. All this is brand new information to all of us as we're going through these picks.
I've made a mental note in my head that we got to remember to do that at the beginning, as well as something else I got in my mind. But anyway,
I keep telling myself to do it, and I keep forgetting. So it shows you how good I am.
And anyway, before we turn this into a management meeting, Olympus, what's your number 4 pick?
It is Amanda Grayson, aka Spock's mummy. So I know Amanda features, keep me honest here, guys, features in the original series. I believe we see Amanda in the J.J. Abrams version of Trek as well. Is that one Amanda? I think that's Amanda too. Obviously, we see Amanda in Strange New Worlds and Discovery. I'm going to talk about the Amanda from Strange New Worlds and Discovery because I do not have a lot of exposure to the original series. I know, bad Olympus, slap on the wrist, but I don't. And you know, one, Spock's mother, by blood, but you cannot go without mentioning also Michael Burnham's brother. Michael Burnham. I'm getting tongue-tied. Michael Burnham's mother, as in stepmother, and I think, you know, the relationship that she has with Michael is encapsulated and portrayed very, very well through Discovery, especially season 1. See how close she is. Like she's the only human connection that Michael has in her childhood growing up, and you see from the very onset of Discovery just how Vulcan Michael acts, and seeing that connection start to flourish and come alive as she starts moving away from that through her character development in Discovery is very nice. And you directly see the influences that Amanda has on that. And then you've got a very similar relationship between Amanda and Spock, because again, Amanda is Spock's only real human connection. He is half human, but he grows up in Vulcan. His experiences are all Vulcan. He's constantly pushed to be as Vulcan as possible throughout all of his society. And she's the only element before he joins Starfleet of trying to help grow and blossom that human side of him. And I just think that every single scene you see between her and him is utterly beautiful and defining for him in some way. And I think some of those best scenes and some of the most entertaining were in the Strange New Worlds episode where Spock has the accident at that interdimensional wormhole thing. I'm explaining this badly now. I don't have a note of the episode, which is terrible, but he's got his fiancée turning up on the Enterprise with her mother and father for this very special ritual, which they need to do before they get married, and Spock is completely 100% human for the first time in his life. So Amanda jumps on board for that ceremony, gets thrown the curveball of, oh, look what's happened to your son, what are we going to do about it? And I just think that everything that ensues through that is brilliant entertainment, and really again brings home a lot of truths for us to experience watching it. But for Spock as a character, I think the mind meld that happens towards the end, and they touch on it before she jumps onto the pad, because I think in that ceremony towards the end, Spock and Amanda have to share a mind meld of a special memory, and when they do it, T'Prin's mother turns around and asks what it was, and I think one of them says, "Oh, it's just a memory of being at the park," or something like that. It was quite flippant, and actually, it was a very special memory where Spock was, for the first time ever, being accepted by his peers on Vulcan, despite the fact that Amanda's sitting off in the distance being shunned by all the other Vulcan mothers. And it really brought how much pain and how much struggle Amanda went through his childhood trying to do the absolute best for him. And I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this. I'm actually thinking now, why only number 4? This should have been like number 2, but there you go.
That's a good question. Yeah. And Stu, please hold your. I'm going to hold my thoughts. So Stu, please go ahead.
I think, yeah, absolutely. Again, phenomenal choice. She's played interestingly in Strange New Worlds and Discovery, I think, Amanda, and we see a very different Amanda than the original series and the J.J. Abrams ones. And yeah, I think you've cited the perfect episode to highlight that relationship. I think also the one where Sarek was dying as well, and that connection between Amanda and Michael in particular. But that episode you cited, I've got to show off a little bit now. I have a copy of that script signed by Jess Bush.
Ooh, jealous.com.
Yeah, she's my Star Trek brush. Is Jess Bush. I performed Shakespeare with her. Anyway, moving on very
Double
swiftly.
jealous.
Because that's not what this is about. But All the World's a Stage.
Fair enough.
Yeah. We also recreated her first scene from Home and Away, where I played the girl who she has a falling out with.
Yeah, fair enough.
Wow.
Anyway,
I didn't know they were in that. I never watched Home and Away.
Claims to
I was always a
fame.
Neighbours fan.
So people can find out more about my acting work at stu-jackson.co.uk. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
Anyway,
good.
no, I think
It's plug.
yeah. Amanda is an excellent. And I'm wishing I'd thought of her.
As I said, I'm wishing I had her
That's
up
my
at number 2.
takeaway.
She, like honestly now, as I was as I was talking through all of that, the emotions I was feeling and everything pulling together, she should have been my number 2. So never mind, it's fixed now.
Yeah.
But
I do have opinions, but as I said, I'm going to hold them for a minute. So that's fine. So we go to our number 3 picks, and I believe Stu is next.
So my pick for number 3 is again someone from Star Trek, and I've noticed so far I'm the only person to mention a Star Wars person.
Oh. Yeah,
But
we
then
don't
there aren't many women in the Star Trek universe, are there? Anyway,
Star Wars, yeah.
shots across the bow there. Anyway, my third pick is someone who, kind of in the same way as Beverly Crusher, like she's both a good mother and a bad mother, but perhaps a little bit more on the bad mother side. Is Alexander's mother, Kalir.
interesting
Like
pick.
Almost
I love
female
it.
Worf.
Yeah.
Indeed. Which is probably why they would get on so well. And so badly.
So, like Ben, earlier you mentioned about Carol Marcus, and you said about like Kirk not being in David's life. So there is actually a line in the movie of Wrath of Khan about how Carol had asked Kirk to keep away, to stay out. So he was just like that was part of it. However, Worf didn't ask Kalia to not tell him about to not tell Alexander about Worf. So her keeping it from Worf is a really, nearly said a naughty word, bad move. And a bad parent move. Like, whatever she thinks about the father, he's still his father and should have the opportunity. That's my hot take on that. However, she does put things in place to make sure that Alexander's going to be looked after so yeah. I still think she kind of comes out on the bad mother.
Yes,
Like,
definitely.
in a very dramatic way.
Indeed. I totally agree with you.
I completely agree as well. Maybe that first year or two where they were together, that was maybe good. But yeah, passing over to Worf and then not hearing about her again until the episode she dies is, yeah. Oh no, that was the same episode, wasn't it? Sorry, I just buttoning
Yes.
things up. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, same
Yeah,
episode.
so it's like, oh, you've got a son. I've been stabbed.
Yeah.
That was that.
Yeah.
Remember, Olympus, delete the pit when I made the mistake of me getting that wrong.
Roger.
But yeah, no, really not mentioning him is to Worf is not particularly great.
No. I can't add much else, but phenomenal pick. Agree with everything you've said. And yeah, where she does the right thing by Alexander to make sure he is protected when she's gone, those choices that she made in life outside of that, pretty damn terrible.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm going to quickly go to my number 3 because
Go on,
this
then.
is actually the grandmother to before mentioned son Alexander. This is Elena Zenko, who was the she actually had 2 children, including his stepchild, not stepchild, sorry, adopted child Worf, and to have to bring up Worf is a hard task in itself. So I'll give her credit for that. But when they meet up in families, her relationship with him is very caring, very loving. Worf is okay. Stop embarrassing me, but yeah, is caring as well. They, but I think that's more his dad actually that he finds embarrassing. But yeah, bringing him up in a foreign culture, and letting him have his own culture there. I'm going to give her. I was going to say 10 out of 10, but nearly 10 out of 10 for that because she is, I think caring. She came over as a caring mother. Again, Worf got brought up reasonably well. He got a good career, and okay, maybe passing over his the parent abilities was not that great, but yeah. So that was my number 3, Helena Rosenko, Wolf's mum. Any other thoughts?
Another one of my honourable mentions. It just sounds like I'm saying that for the sake of it now, but honestly, they're listed. She's great pick, mate. Absolutely brilliant pick. Again, I don't have much to add to that. I think it was a very real scenario when she turns up on the Enterprise D with Alexander to hand back over to Worf and for Worf to keep there. In that, she was it the best thing to do with zero notice to Worf? Absolutely not. But then she knows her son. She knows how he would have reacted, you could argue. And it was really real in that she was admitting that her and her husband were tired. They were getting on in age. They couldn't keep up. Raising one Klingon all those years ago was hard enough. Trying to do it again now was too much. So I think that actually, in a way, I'd say was very good motherly behaviour in a lot of ways too. That's the only thing I'd add. I'd say no, brilliant pick, mate.
Any thoughts, Stu?
Yeah, and yeah, like you say, that kind of self-awareness is kind of essential, I think, for any good parent. So yeah, that's a good call. And the other thing I'd add that I feel has been glaringly obviously missing from the list, she makes a really good roque egg blood pie.
She does indeed.
So what more can you want than that? So yeah,
very
yeah,
true. It's
really
like, yeah,
brilliant pick.
definitely, yeah.
I am sure it's
yeah.
delicious.
Oh, you got me thinking of William Riker trying all those Klingon meals now and Enterprise D. That's tables for the different food. But before we go on to that, Olympus, what's your number 3 pick?
I think that's a future episode right there. Top 5 sci-fi meals.
Oh God, yeah. Making a note.
We could have a franchise bake-off or something. Yes, my number 3. Before we start going down the road of food and I start getting a rumbly tummy, I am going to throw in a wild card and move away from the worlds of Star Wars and Star Trek for this pick, and I'm going to jump to the Orville and talk about a wonderful character. No, I'm not talking about the Doctor on the Orville. I'm talking about Havina, who is a Moclan female who ends up leading the resistance of female Moclans against their homeworld, who are basically viewing females as extremely bad. They've had only male lineage, or as much as possible, forced for so many generations. Very, very backwards views on anything and everything female. And there are some phenomenal episodes scattered across all the seasons of the Orville so far that really hit home on those issues of female equality and things like that. So you first meet Havina at the hearing for Bortus's child, where Bortus, who's one of the Moclans on the Orville, has just had a baby, and it's a girl. The Moclan society forces all female children to go through the sex change to male shortly after birth, and he's fighting it. His partner is for the change. So you first meet her in that trial. That trial's unsuccessful, which really hits home and makes that a brilliant episode. By the by, I put that away for now. Otherwise, I'll be here all day. You next see her as leader of, as I say, this resistance of female Moclans, trying to make a home and a life on another planet far away from Moclus, and trying to save these female Moclans and bring them into that community, away from being subjugated and forced to go through these procedures. She is the mother of all those Moclan females. She's the mother of that revolution and that movement, and she has an absolutely she's got an absolute desire and love for Dolly Parton and her music, which is hilariously entertaining, and you actually get a special guest moment with her in one of those episodes too, which is brilliant. So yeah, that is my number 3. Absolutely phenomenal character. I know she's not part of the Star Wars Star Trek franchise, but I think definitely worthy of a mention.
It definitely sounds like a Star Trek story. That
Doesn't it?
I've never, and I still got to get around to watching Orville. We've had this discussion after Starships, funny enough, with Stu again. So, but
You mean all that time you've still not watched Orville yet, Ben? You're letting the team down.
no, I haven't. Yeah. So, maybe ask me next time we have Stu on if I've watched it or not. If we have Stu again, which I'm not.
If you'll come back on for us, Stu.
Yeah.
Well, I've already picked out my top meal, so I already know
Brilliant.
what I have for that. So. Yeah, I think that's an amazing pick, and like you say, I mean, she was very so representative of the real sort of feminist struggle that happens in real life. Also representative in many other ways of a lot of other things that are going on in real life. Like transgender rights issues as well, which is quite surprising from McFarlane, given his problematic history there. I think he's been doing a lot of backpedaling on that with Orville, but that's a whole other topic of conversation. But yeah, and I'm really glad you mentioned Dolly Parton because instrumental in that episode. And you said hilariously entertaining. I was absolutely moved to tears by Dolly Parton's presence and impact on that episode. So yeah,
That specific episode,
fantastic.
actually, the emotions I was feeling during that scene were incredible. I had an entire wave of varying feelings. It was funny, it was sad, it was heartwarming, it was moving, it enraged me, it just warmed me up. It was such a complex scene, and that scene's only maybe 3 or 5 minutes long. Honestly, it's probably one of the best episodes of the Orville. But yeah, it's just when they walk into her Havina's little house on the colony, and you hear Working 9 to 5 playing in the background. It's just so good.
I'm gonna have to make that the first episode I watch of the Orville. To be honest, definitely.
I wouldn't. I'd watch them in order because context is everything with that.
Yeah, 100% it is. So I see why you would want to, but honestly, watch it from the start, do it the whole way through. Otherwise, to Stu's point, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. It won't have the same impact.
I'd do that, definitely.
And I mean, that leads to some massive political change. And now I am digressing, so I'm going to stop.
Oh well, go by all means. Yeah, I suppose this is the point of this thing, is to have a conversation around the topic of.
It is, but this would take us way outside of motherhood and go into the realms of politics with the planetary union and species falling out and switching sides and all of the subterfuge and the politicking that goes on with that. Enemies becoming friends and all that good stuff. Lots of amazing twists and turns in the Orville. There you go. I've said my piece. I won't go any further. Back to mothers.
No, I suppose the next pick is Stu's number 2 pick. If you would like.
Okay, so I'm moving away from bad mothers now to I'll say what I perceive to be good mothers, because I think my next choice is an absolutely brilliant mother, but a lot of people may not think so on first encounter.
I think I know who you're going to pick.
Mother to Rom and Quark. Moogie, indeed. And yeah, we first meet her, and because she butts heads with Quark so strongly, and of course Quark, in that, although he's a bit of an antagonist in Deep Space Nine in many ways, he's the protagonist in those stories. So because she's butting heads against him, we see her as the antagonist. But as we learn more and more about their relationship over so many episodes, we find out, she's the one who taught Quark the rules of acquisition. She's the one who, she coddled Rom, absolutely, but Rom needed coddling. Quark needed support. He needed challenging, and he needed, so she adapted her mothering style to what her children needed, not what they wanted. And that can be an incredibly difficult thing, I think, for any parent, because it's easy to just go. I'm saying this, I'm not a parent myself, but I'm assuming it's easy to go down the route of just give them what they want, and that temptation, because you want your children to be happy, right? You don't have them, to make them miserable, unless you're some of the ones I've mentioned already. But so yeah, so to do that, to challenge Quark the way she did, and to encourage these supportive. So in a lot of ways, she molded Rom to be like her husband, who she loved absolutely dearly, but knew she understood his failings, his shortcomings. She knew what he was never going to succeed at, and she saw all that in Rom, but still encouraged him to be the best person that he could be in a complex society. Yeah, I think, and that's leaving out all the other stuff about her as an amazing, phenomenal person in character in her own right. Again, with the challenging of for women's rights, the feminism issues, all of that. That's even putting all that to one side and just focusing on the motherhood. I think she's absolutely amazing.
Oh no, definitely a great pick. I love it. Yeah, she probably is shun originally by Ferengi society, and probably still do to the end. And I know even Cork, who was okay, you're being a rubbish mother. You're acquiring wealth and wearing clothes, which is very against Ferengi tradition at the time we see it, and it's just like he even warms to that over the years. Not completely, but he warms to it, and she did bring him up the way she to be the person he is, to be a businessman. So, Olympus.
Can't add anything else. You've summed it up brilliantly between the two of you. Just definitely, I can see why top two. I mean, contender for top one in some respects. Between the motherhood side of it and then the women's rights side of it that you mentioned again, which I was eagerly waiting to jump in if you didn't get to it, but you did, which I was very glad to hear. I mean, there's even the point where doesn't she end up running the show at one point for Ferenginar, behind the scenes. It just articulates.
Yeah, she becomes the first clerk.
Yeah.
To the Nagus.
Yeah.
Well, until Zek steps down, and then we know the first clerk becomes Lita.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
just brilliant pick.
Yeah.
I suppose that's me next, isn't it?
Indeed.
So I'm gonna have my first Star Wars pick, and I'm actually going to go to the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic here. I am not going for Satil Shan. I am going to go for Senya Terrell, who appears in Knights of the Old Republic expansion. You first meet her as somebody who's coming to aid your character, who was originally hunting down one of your companions, or became your companions. And you find her. Find out she is the wife of the former emperor and the mother of who is now the Toponic leader, the new emperor of the Eternal, not the Eternal Alliance, but the Eternal
Empire.
Yeah, and yeah, by the sound, when you're coming over this, you find out she seems like she's a bad mother. Her one of her three children were fighting a war against the Empire and the Republic, and her living son and her daughter are basically monsters, but she cares about her children. You see in one of the trailers for the top three, I think this is the one after you first meet her, that she actually cares for her daughter. She's trying to make sure her husband doesn't take them away to be enforced into have their force powers and being forced into this empire that is almost sadistic by her husband's challenge. and throughout this, you always find her caring about her daughter and her son, and it's like doing everything to help not help them in a bad way, but help them to come back to, let's do this in a Star Wars way, back to the light, back to care, to help them, to try to make them normal. When I say normal, as in not monsters and part of a killing empire. And she actually managed. If she actually manages to do that with her son Arkin, you actually potentially can come back and help your side, your alliance, uh, and be on your side. So, and I would say she's one of these mothers who has cared for the children, but actually managed to fail at the job, as in they haven't become respectable members of society. They've been the complete opposite, even though their son eventually could potentially be a respectable member of society, depending on your character's choices.
Oh, what a polite way to put that, especially when you consider Valen.
Yeah, yeah, Valen is a monster. There's nothing short of that.
She's
He is a monster.
cuckoo for crazy cakes and absolutely tyrannical beyond belief. She's probably worse than Valkorion.
Yeah,
Because at least he was intelligent with it all.
yeah. But my point is, it's it's not how successful she was. She is a caring person. She's always keeps trying to be that good parent, that good person to her children throughout.
Yeah.
And she's not encouraging them to be bad. She's trying to bring them to the side, and she will fight against them to stop them if needs be.
I agree with you. Again, phenomenal choice. And again, I can see why it's a number 2, potentially, again, a potential one number 1. I would add that I know it's your point. It's not about whether she was successful or whether she failed as a mother, because you can see through the story that you play and through the cutscenes just how much, and the cinematic, just how much she cares and how much she loves them. But you can see clearly where she, especially in that scene in particular, where she failed. You could argue she failed with Arkin and his twin. I'm having a complete mind blank what his twin's name was, which is terrible. Texan, thank you, because I've got his lightsaber. So where she failed with the twins, she saw what was potentially happening to Valen, and it would be worse because Valen was more powerful, more strongly connected to the Force, and she tries everything. She risks losing everything she's got to try and take her away from that. And the sad reality is, spoiler alert for anyone who's not seen the cinematics or played the story, Valen doesn't want to be saved.
Yeah, she doesn't. So, yeah.
And that was not a failing on my mind's just gone blank. Senya, thank you. That was not a failing on Senya's part at all, in my mind.
Yeah, and yeah, I completely agree, and I'll pick it. I will ask Stu, but I don't know if you are aware of this MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic or not. But
I'm aware of it. I mean, I've played KOTOR and KOTOR 2. I've never played the MMO at all, so I don't know the character of which you speak. But from the way you've described it, and the challenges she's faced, I can definitely see why she's a top pick for you. Definitely.
in that case, yeah, it is Senya to roll as my number 2 pick. So, Olympus.
Over to my number 2. So, I am now 3 to Star Trek, 1 to Orville. This is Carol Freeman from Lower Decks. Again, is she a good mum? Arguably not. But you don't know. Maybe she could just be at the point where she is tried everything and she's at her wit's end with her daughter, and she just needs to let Mariner fly off and do her own thing. You see a lot of mistakes being made by Carol Freeman in the first season when it comes to Mariner, but then equally you see a lot of mistakes Mariner makes too, and that disjointed, mismatched, broken relationship works very well for the tempo of Lower Decks and the stories and the atmosphere and everything that show's trying to drive. And ultimately what it does show, again, as you get to the end of season 1, then onwards into season 2 and beyond, is that Carol Freeman does care. She loves her daughter. She wants the best for her. She's trying to do everything in her power, and everything she's trying to do when it surrounds Mariner is coming from a heart of gold to try and do something for Mariner's benefit. And yeah, it's a dysfunctional, if beautiful, relationship between the two characters. A special episode I want to call out is the cinematic one where Mariner's on the holodeck and she rewrites Boimler's holodeck program for his movie. No, it wasn't his movie. It was he was trying to brown nose the senior staff in understanding what the captain liked for his upcoming evaluation, I think it was. And Mariner rewrites it into a cinematic movie, which has all the TOS era kind of stuff to it. It looks really cool. And it's all because she's been totally dysfunctional and she hates her mother's guts and she basically wants to kill everything and everyone. And at the very end of it, she's like, oh my God, therapy works. And you're just sat there like, that wasn't therapy. But again, it's just a beautiful episode that kind of surrounds their relationship and how Mariner's dealing with her mother in her own ways and struggling with it and how she comes out of that on the other side a little bit. But yes, Carol is determined, strong-willed, very strong female character, loves her daughter, shows that throughout the series. So yeah, she is number 2 for me.
Oh, Stu, do you have any opinions?
Lots of opinions, and yeah, I think an absolutely fantastic. She was actually. I've only got 2 honourable mentions. She was one of them.
Yes.
So yeah, really, really good choice. Dysfunctional but beautiful. I think that's a fantastic way of putting it.
Thank you.
And so I think you're absolutely right. She loves her daughter, of course she does. And that's unquestionable. She claims to have tried everything possible to get through to Mariner to help guide Mariner. Is perhaps the best way of putting it. But I always get the feeling, and it's hard to gauge because we're seeing all this from Mariner's perspective. Very, very rarely do we get Carol's perspective on this in as part of the writing. But I always get the feeling that Carol has done everything that she can for Mariner that she's comfortable doing.
Yeah.
Opening herself up, reaching out emotionally to her daughter, I think would be uncomfortable for her, and I suspect that she hadn't really tried that properly. So, yes, she thinks she's done everything she can, but she hasn't.
Yeah, agreed.
That would be my
I like that.
take on it.
I do like that. And as you were saying that, it somehow, don't know where the connection came from, but it somehow reminded me of the start of season 3, I think it is, when Carol's on trial for the destruction of Packlet Planet. And Mariner's in her dad's living room throwing plant pots at the view screens and having a complete meltdown. I think, again, dysfunctional yet beautiful. Look how much she cares about her mum.
No, she does.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben? What thoughts do you have on it?
No, I completely agree with both what you said. She is somebody who cares for her mum, and she's the only one who's allowed to rebel against her mum. Like most of your children, it's like, no, you can't rebel against them. It's only me. I'm the daughter or son in other situations, but yeah, and she's a great character. I would like to see more from her perspective, but it's Lower Decks is about the Lower Decks characters, so yeah. no, great character, great relationship, and yeah, I think she is still a good mother, even though seems like it's hard work.
Absolutely. True story.
So I think that's all our number 2 picks then. So we're all down to our number 1 pick. So
Ooh.
drum roll for Stu.
Okay, so here's where, for the first time, I've gone perhaps a little bit more abstract in my picks, and more mother figure in a lot of ways, but I still think absolutely entitled to be the greatest mother of both universes, both franchises. Put it how you will. And I have to give a big shout out. So I hadn't considered this particular character at all before I mentioned it. And I've been thinking about, like, you play out in your head, like, you think about who you might be picking for about a week before we do these records, or I did anyway. It's sort of been playing on my mind, and I was talking about it with my girlfriend this weekend. And when I said, like, we're going to be talking about the greatest mothers, she instantly mentioned this particular character, and I hadn't considered them at all. And it's ended up being my number 1. Not because to
Wow.
impress the girlfriend, although you could forgive me that, right? But because I think absolutely the perfect mother is the Borg Queen.
Very true. Yeah.
I'm having to keep my voice down because my daughter's asleep in the other room.
I love it. I know.
She is my top honourable mention.
Wow.
It actually is.
I didn't think about this. Oh wow.
But the thing is, I mentioned it to my
I'm not even going to try and justify it because it's the Borg Queen.
perfection.
So
Perfection is the aim. Perfection is the
what
goal.
more do you
Perfection is
need
what
to
she
say?
is. Exactly. I mean, I mentioned the Borg Queen to my wife. But it must have been yesterday when I was saying, not in my top 5, but honourable mention, top of the list, Borg Queen. Here's why. And she went, but she isn't a mother. Look at all the people she kills. I'm like, you're missing the point.
Well, she kills for her children.
Exactly.
That's the point. Every essence of her being is for the betterment of her children.
Yeah.
For their care, for their protection, for their growth, for their
And even though 7 and 9 now is not a fan of the Borg Queen, at the time, and you had this one scene where she was afraid to go away from the collective, and in theory, she was afraid to go away from her mum, basically the mum of the colony of the Borg collective, the collective. And yeah, at one point in her life, 7 would have agreed, and I'm sure some of the other drones would have. But yeah, I love it, and I'm glad you went this abstract with it. I love it.
Phenomenal choice, Stu. Well done. I don't know how we're topping this. Well, actually, I won't go on to mine yet. Obviously, it's Ben next, but mine might.
Oh, fair enough. I look forward to this. My one's a bit more of a sensible one, and it is one that has been mentioned already, and I semi-alluded to this, and that's Amanda Grayson, Spock's mum, Michael Burnham's mum, and she, yeah, again, for all the reasons Olympus said, her defense of her children, her performances, her caring ability. She is the yin and stereotypical mum, and the yin and yang from a Sarek. She cares. I don't have much for this, and other than one of the things that gets brought up, especially again in I think Discovery, was her reading Alice in Wonderland to her children. I'm not saying that makes a good mother, but it's just like it's one of those things that you have relationships you're prepared to read to your children. You can help them get educated as well, such like so.
It's also the hidden messaging behind that story when you compare that to the Vulcan way of life as well. It's twofold there for me, which makes it extra powerful.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good point. Actually, it is again. We said the yin and the yang from the parents, but it is the yin and the yang from the species, how they get brought up.
Yep.
I'm not saying the Vulcan way's bad or the humans' way's bad. I'm just saying it's a different cultures, and it brings something different to that culture that they got brought up into. Yeah. And I think in this case, in a good way.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, love it. I was about to say I love your pick thing, but that's patting myself on the back, so I shouldn't do that.
You know what I'll say again though, guys, as well, right? Another episode, we're still on point. We've got at least one pick which we've either mirrored or is slightly close. Without even trying, because we don't tell each other about any of this stuff before we're actually in and running through the recording step by step. So phenomenal.
Yeah, whereas the last time we had Stu on, we missed out on exact match by technicalities.
We did.
But yeah, this one we were the exact same person. So in that case, I'm looking forward to your number one pick, then, Chris.
So very different reasons, by the way. Going back to obviously the Ball Queen, perfection personified. You know, when it comes to how she is. This one is for very different reasons, which is about to become apparent. And also, I do apologise, but I am slightly cheating because in a way, this is actually two picks.
Ooh,
The first iteration I'm going to talk about is the wonderful, magnificent, eccentric, overpowering, over-controlling, but utterly phenomenal Lwaxana Troy, who had a very honourable mention at the start of our crawl. What can you say about Lwaxana? I mean, from the moment that she's on screen in her first episode, she's phenomenal. Her relationship with Diana is obvious. It's loving, it's caring, it's frustrating, it's annoying, it's brilliant, but it is very, very clear every single time, no matter what the conversation is, no matter what the topic is, no matter what emotions are firing, every single time you can see just how much Lwaxana loves Diana and how much she wants everything that's best for her in her mind for Diana. In every single episode she's in, every single encounter. It's just very, very plain to see. I'm going to try and keep this strict to Motherhood because I could go on about Lwaxana Troy and her different characteristics and her interactions with Jean-Luc and all that stuff for hours. She's one of my favourite characters in Star Trek. Of course, you guys will probably be guessing right away my little cheat, and that is Majel Barrett herself, because we have said top 5 mothers. We did not specify characters, which is why I also didn't mention that at the very start of the episode as one of my guidelines. But one of my guidelines was also not necessarily characters. Majel Barrett is, of course, the mother of Star Trek. Both
you say the number one person in Stick. Correct.
Another one. You could say number one person, couldn't you? So yes, Majel Barrett, absolutely. The mother of Trek. She was part of the creation of it. She's been in the TOS. She's been in Next Generation. She's played the computer's voice. She's helped drive the franchise head on so phenomenally. And her title as Mother of Star Trek says it all. So for me, there could be no other number one choice.
Oh, definitely. And she is a mother, I'm presuming she's the mother to a current director to current Trek. I think it's Discovery. Is it Discovery or Picard? He was in, I forgot his first name, but Roddenberry surname.
Good point. I'm gonna have to Google this because he's not.
It's Rod Roddenberry.
It is.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Stu. I knew somebody would jump in and crack my mind blank. Sorry. Yeah.
No, the reason I'd have to Google is because I know that Gene Roddenberry, like Majel Barrett, is not his first wife. I think he had kids to his first wife. So I'm not gonna pretend I know. I'd need to Google it.
Yeah, fair enough. As I said, I'm presuming I could be completely wrong, but I'm sure he had a relationship of some kind with her. So
I think
yeah.
his relationship with Madger was a bit of a scandal, if I remember correctly.
In that case, please edit that bit out and yeah, change it because yeah, yeah. But
Wouldn't
yeah,
be so much these days.
No, not nowadays. Back then, though.
Yes. Oh yes, sensibilities were different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent, excellent choice, and yeah, really, really creative use. I'll say at the end with Major Barrett.
yeah.
Although, I 100% get and respect if she's the mother of Star Trek for you, but for me, there is only one mother of Star Trek, and it's not Majel Barrett. Majel was instrumental and fundamental in Star Trek and in its creation. However, Lucille Ball
I know the name.
was
back into season 3. Yes.
so Lucille Ball had an incredibly successful sitcom show called I Love Lucy back in the day, and Gene Roddenberry was trying to get Star Trek greenlit, and he was struggling. And it was Lucille Ball who said, "We'll fund it. We'll pay for it. You're making Star Trek," and that's why it was a I've forgotten the name of the production company now, but the original Star Trek under her production company off the back of I Love Lucy.
Ooh.
So if you didn't have I Love Lucy, you wouldn't have Star Trek.
There
I
you
wonder
go.
if
I
that's
did not
why
know
it
that.
gets
Exist.
mentioned in Enterprise.
Yeah.
I Love Lucy. One of the Vulcans watching it. Yeah.
I did not know that. I've learned something brand new. It's still Majel Barrett
It's
for me,
one of
though.
those weird little bits of trivia that you sort of you hear about. But Majel, we love Majel.
Yeah, you can't not, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And her relationship with Odo.
That's what made me love the character. Actually, was her relationship with Odo. I would say there was another episode of TNG that made me make her think more. Well, I was about to say more human, but more Betazoid. But yeah, her relationship with Odo was great for me, and that's what made me starting to like her as a character.
Well, that was part of what started pushing Odo into freeing himself up a bit more and letting go, wasn't it? It was his relationship with Loaxana.
Shall we? Yeah, shall we go on to honourable mentions then? While we're here. Olympus,
Absolutely.
you got any left, or have you said them all already?
Most of you guys have said them all already. I've got one left that hasn't already been mentioned. That is Ensign Wildman from Voyager.
Yes, Samantha Wildman. Yeah, she is on mine as well.
Yeah. You know, out in the Delta Quadrant. Obviously already pregnant without realizing it when she first went out there. And bringing up Naomi the way she did, off to her.
Definitely. No, definitely, I agree. And Stu, I think you said you had 2 picks, and you've mentioned one, I think. And do you have any more?
Yeah, I made an error there. I have 2 left. So I actually had 3. So one, I want to mention Keiko.
Yep.
Because her 3 children that she ended up with, because I'm including Miles. I mean, so as a mother, yeah, we kind of we don't get to see her a great deal as a mother, but we know that she's at least competent. But we talk a lot about like, oh, it's a torture Miles O'Brien episode, and it happens a lot. But she's his support mechanism. She's always there, propping him up, holding him up, piecing him back together, whilst raising their kids. Yeah. And I just think, Keiko, I've got all of it. It's weird. Keiko's one of those people that she's like Marmite. I think people either love her or hate her. I'm definitely on the love side. I think she does a phenomenal job.
I do have a mixed relationship with Keiko.
lot of people do.
Does this bring it
But
back
the
to
other one I
Walther
wanted...
again?
Perhaps.
No. Oh, right.
As in,
Oh, yeah.
Wolf was his midwife, her midwife.
Yes, of course, during disaster. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. But the other one I wanted to mention, and we only meet her in one episode, and that's Julian Bashir's mother. I don't even know her name. That's Mrs. Bashir, presumably.
Yeah.
But there's this. So it's the episode Dr. Bashir, I presume, when we find out that he's been genetically modified and all the rest of it. And there's this horrible argument scene between Julian and his father. And is like saying, "Oh, you didn't want the child you were given," sort of thing. And she gives this really heartfelt, moving speech about like you don't know what it's like. You blame yourself. You see your child struggling. You want the best for them, but did you do something wrong? Did you like? And it's like really, it's gut wrenching. It's not just heart wrenching; it's gut wrenching. That speech, and you just So I wanted to mention her.
No, that's right. That was a very good family episode, actually. That was, I like that episode a lot. So I suppose I should give my list. I had Samantha Wildman. I actually was considering doing Kira Maru, Kira Maurice's mum, because she did what she had to do for her daughter. But yeah, there was reasons why I didn't get on my list. Who else? Satil Shan from Star Wars: The Old Republic again. So that's related to Bastila Shan from KOTOR. For those who don't know, she had a son called Ferron Shan that was appeared in the game. I was also considering Baru Lars, Luke Skywalker's. I was going to say Luke Skywalker's was for basic. Yeah, it was their aunt Maru. There, but basically was the mum for Luke. I did also consider Hera. I'm not going to try to pronounce the surname because I very bad at it, but from I believe Clone Wars originally, and I saw her in Ahsoka. And then there was also I forgot his names, but one of the bad guys in Andor, mother, the bad guys. I think she's called Edai Khan. I just liked her as a character, as a mum, just giving her son a boot up the arse, basically. But yeah, those are my honourable mentions.
Hera, I cannot believe I forgot Hera. It was Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. She was originally in. Again, probably one of, if not my favourite character out of that series. Loved her in the live action Ahsoka as well. Totally forgot about her, so she should have been on my list. Satil Shan's an interesting one as well, because I did consider Satil, and she didn't make the honourable mentions list, and I can't for life of me remember why, but I don't know a lot about her. As much as I love her as a character in the game, I don't know a lot about her backstory, because I know there's been a novel or two where her backstory has been fleshed out a lot, and I don't have that context. But the impression I got from the game and the cutscenes and whatnot, when you get to those elements of the end game, was that she kind of abandoned Theron pretty completely. So not really good again from a how well did she do perspective.
Yeah. No, mine was going for she did that, but I think when you got to the later bits of the story, she started communicating a lot more with her son, which is why I considered it and why it was a honourable
That's
mention.
A fair point. You do see the communications, or at least some of them increase. I think Theron actually makes reference to it now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, good pick. But then I'm a big fan of Satil Shan. So
that was also why I was going for it, because I love the character as the Jedi Master for the series.
Which makes me wonder if she's a direct descendant of Revan. I don't know if Revan was the father of her great-grandfather father or mother
Yeah.
or whoever it was. I don't know that
It
element
is
of
believed
content
that
either.
I think they are direct descendants, and I think it's referred to in Shadow of Revan that they are definitely related.
I need
if
to
not.
replay Shadow of Revan because that's a really good expansion. And I digress again. I'm really good at digressing. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, I suppose we better give the score, but I suppose it's obvious. I've started asking everybody who they think actually won this one, but I think it's pretty obvious.
Oh,
So,
it's surely Star Wars this time, isn't it? Haha.
yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, they just managed to beat the Orville. So it was the Orville and third was 1 pick. Star Wars was 2, and then with a massive 12 picks. 12 picks, yeah, 12 picks for Star Trek there. So
I mean, let's be honest. Stu, you alluded to it earlier on. Star Wars does not have many female characters, and of those, very few of them are mothers. So it's quite difficult, really, like mothers in any sense. So it's very difficult, especially when you're trying to rank a top 5, to really pick many out. So any that were picked out today, I think they were honestly phenomenal picks and really, really well thought out, I thought.
and I think that's why I went to the Star Wars: The Old Republic, because that did involve mothers a little bit more.
That Valen pick, because I was thinking about the Old Republic, and the only one I could think of was Satil Shan. I totally forgot about Knights of the Fallen Empire and the Eternal Throne.
I'm going to digress back just a moment to something you just said there, Olympus. Of the female characters, not many of them are mothers. Sticking with the main core of the franchise, Leia ends up being a mother. Padme ends up being a mother. Shmi is a mother. I'm trying to think of any other female characters from the main series.
I'm probably thinking all of it. I'm not thinking the main series. I'm thinking Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka. There's something else. I've forgotten it. There's another one.
Obi-Wan.
Oh, Obi-Wan. How could I forget Obi-Wan? I love the Obi-Wan series. I absolutely love that. But then Obi-Wan is my favourite character.
I've seen Obi-Wan and Mandalorian. Oh, and Book of Boba.
Book of Boba Fett, that is more like a Mandalorian filler in my eyes. But I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
It got a lot of hate, and I don't understand why. Because, as I said, it wasn't on par with The Mandalorian at the time, but I didn't find any of the episodes bad. I did enjoy them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the only thing I found irritating was it was suddenly went on to 2 episodes about the Mandalorian. I know
thought
you
that was
didn't like
hilarious.
that. Yeah.
It was almost like we got half of it. It's like they got 3/4 way through and went, we've run out of content. Let's get the Mandalorian in.
Yeah.
Oh,
I suppose we're going.
the Mandalorian, mother to Grogu.
Stu, you were about to say something else?
Oh no, I was just going down the digression, dark hole.
It's
We can keep going on for another half an hour and then do it as extra content. Yeah, the diversion or the yeah. I suppose we only have thank yous and shout outs for everybody to say. I suppose so. I suppose Stu, you want to go first and give a shout out for your stuff.
So thank you. Yeah. Hailing Frequencies is the main YouTube channel. I'm going to confess I haven't been putting much content out there lately because life's been getting in the way. Essentially, as it does from time to time. But for anyone who's also interested in UFOs and things like that and conspiracy theories, I do a UFO podcast, or did. We've put a stop to that now, but all the episodes are there. That's aliensexplored.com. You can see that. For people who like role-play games, Hailing Frequencies would do a really good Star Trek role-play on there. And also Tales from the 20 Side is a more classic high fantasy role-play game by podcast as well. I think that's it.
Yeah, no, give those all look. I know that's where some of that content is where I met Stu from. Was from his Star Trek Adventures role playing thing on, which is now on Halen Frequencies. But and I've had to listen to most of the other stuff, and yeah, good content. Please go and watch it, guys and ladies. Olympus, do you want to? I'm pointing that direction because you're there on my screen, but you're probably
Other way.
somewhere like there.
There
Or,
you go.
yeah, yeah. But
No problem at all. It's where was I gonna see? Too late at night now for me. That's what I'll say first off. I know we'll say it at the end, but massive thank you, Stu, for jumping in and taking part again today. It's been great having you with us, and we'll make sure to get all of the areas that you just listed out added to the description of the video too, so you guys watching can jump in there easily into the description and make your way over to that amazing content. As for me and my mediocre content, I have my Twitch channel that I stream several nights a week. At the moment, it's sort of mainly focused on Star Wars The Old Republic. I've been really enjoying being back there, so that's Olympus0511 on Twitch. I am on Twitter, Olympus0511 as well. And very exciting times for me. I'm really enjoying the process and everything I'm doing with it at the minute, and it's very, very, very new. So when you go on, it will look a bit empty, but watch this space. I've kicked off my YouTube channel, Olympus0511, as well. Surprisingly, I've managed to keep that pretty much the same through everything. So yeah, please take a look there. I've got several shorts on at the minute surrounding Star Wars The Old Republic, and I have my very first video almost finished. I've just got a little bit of audio to add in, and that'll be going up in the next week. So that's going to be my first full video, again focused on Star Wars The Old Republic, taking a proper full-length walkthrough through the first mission on that. So yeah, if you're interested, please take a look there. Again, we'll get those links added into the description along with Ben's. Ben, do you want to walk us through where we can find you?
oh, certainly. But one thing I'm going to say, if you're looking for Olympus's YouTube and you're not going through the links attached, make sure you put Olympus 0511 in as one word, because if you don't, I have ended up with half a ton of cameras videos related to that. So,
Very good point.
yeah. For those not watching on YouTube, I'm on TrekWars and Fantasy on YouTube. I do have a Twitch channel, but I haven't put anything on there for a while, so my main content will be there. You will also find me Trek Wars Fantasy on Twitter, because I'm not going to call it X, and I'll be able to keep anybody updated through there. I think that's it. Yeah, and yeah, please come and have a look at the other content on YouTube. We've got 10 other episodes of this, as well as I'm doing some Star Wars: The Old Republic bits, and a couple other bits of content. So, have I missed anything? There we are.
I don't think so. Just thank you again to everyone who's watching. Special thanks to Stu for joining us once again. I've really enjoyed doing this with you, Stu. And Moopsy.
Me too. And Moopsy.
Moopsy.
See. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody had a good Mother's Day. And yeah, hope you all had a good Mother's Day.
May the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.